Is year 6 the time for Michigan football and Jim Harbaugh? MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, breaking down Michigan football. We're just days away from the Big Ten opener against Minnesota, a trip to Minneapolis and PJ Fleck, and what should be the game of the week in the Big Ten. We got Justin Rowe on the line to talk Michigan football. Justin, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you? It's finally game week. We made it to Big Ten football here, so us up here in the Midwest are pretty happy.
Yeah, about a month ago, we thought there is no way that we're going to see a Big Ten season. Hardly anybody had hope at that point. But the players, the coaches, and the parents stood up and challenged, and I guess the American way still works. So we've got Michigan football against Minnesota, and of course, PJ Fleck's 11-2 bunch from last year, much improved. Let's focus on the MaizenBrew. So, Justin, you heard Jim Harbaugh's news conference. Anything in particular stand out? I know that there was some reference to where the team stands in regards to the COVID situation.
Yeah, so Jim Harbaugh came out and said that they had no new positive tests, so they should be with a full roster for their opener against Minnesota, which is a big deal. I know Michigan has taken their testing and the everything very seriously with that, so they are all good to go, which is good news for the Wolverines. So as far as that goes, we'll see how the season progresses. And how everyone else is out there, using those guidelines and how strict they're being. But as far as game one, Michigan should be with a full roster, which it sounds like Minnesota may not.
So much has been made of Jim Harbaugh's inability to recruit, sign a quarterback that would become the starter at Michigan. Of course, he inherited quarterbacks. He got transfers, and Jake Rudock in particular, and so forth and so on, and then most notably Shea Patterson. So now we have Joe Milton, a Michigan signed quarterback, and we got a guy that I believe can run around a little bit, beat out, seemingly, we understand, he would have beaten out Luke McCaffrey, who was, or Dylan McCaffrey. I get him mixed up, yeah. The Nebraska guy, and then you get the whole lineage, but the McCaffrey, Dylan McCaffrey, of course, there at Michigan. So I'm looking at Joe Milton's high school stats. Now, those can be a bit shaky and sketchy, but I'm seeing a 47% completion percentage, and I'm wondering what's going on there. But what can we expect when Joe Milton hits the field?
For Joe Milton, the athleticism is off the charts. He's 6'5", about 240 pounds. So him going against a linebacker, he could maybe run some people over. So as far as the talent, it's all there. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm, can throw it a mile, can throw it very hard. And so the problems that he's run into so far is that he has struggled to make the right decisions and fit the throws into those tight pockets. So that's where he's really struggled. He's kind of utilized his arm almost too much, where he thinks he can have it all and he thinks he can fit those things into the tight pockets where there is coverage, and that's where he struggled. And so I think it sounds like from the coaches that have and his fellow players that have talked in the preseason that he's really worked on the mid-range throws, the short ones, and the 10 to 15 to 20 yarders, because we've known that he can throw the deep ball. And so they've even talked about how he's thrown 50, 60-yard passes and dropped it in on a dime in preseason. So we'll see if that translates to the game. But as far as what he can do, the sky is the limit. And so really now it is like you talked about. It's Joe Milton has the talent. He has the athleticism. So Michigan has that at quarterback, probably better than they ever have before. But has Jim Harbaugh developed him into a quarterback that is going to make those right reads, make those right decisions, and actually move the ball down the field in an efficient manner?
The recruiting at wide receiver has been impressive. The speed, athleticism on that side in regards to that positional unit, not necessarily coming through all the time, depending on your player. We see Tariq Black playing now at Texas. Nico Collins has opted out, and he's a guy that didn't catch a ton of passes at 37, but 20 yards per catch and 7 touchdowns. So no Nico Collins. How did the rest of the playmakers shake out?
So I think the wide receiver group could be one of the strongest groups for Michigan this year, even without Nico Collins. Obviously, Nico will be, a first or second round pick, and it would have been awesome for them to have him. But they've got some guys that are up and comers, and actually, Ronnie Bell ended up being the leading receiver in terms of yardage for the Wolverines last year. So he's back and will probably be Joe Milton's top target. And so with him, he's not going to be the 6'4" type that Nico Collins is, but he's fast. He runs very good routes. He's doing really well. Mike Stainer still is going to be a great slot receiver for Michigan as well. They've got a couple of young guys. Giles Jackson is one of the fastest guys on the entire team, too. And so Josh Gaddis is the offensive coordinator for Michigan, has talked about speed and space. He's trying to get fast guys out there in space among those defensive backs, and he's got the tools to do that this year. So Joe Milton will have a lot of tools, especially in the wide receiver room and in the running back room as well, in terms of throwing the football. And I believe that they'll throw the football probably a lot more than they have in the past because they've got the better tools. They don't have an awesome offensive line, so they might have to get the ball out pretty quick to those receivers in in a slant route or in any other one of those quick out routes.
Shea Patterson hit on 56% of his passes last year. That used to be a decent number in college football, but last year it ranked 100th out of 114 qualifiers. So I'm sure everyone involved would like to see an uptick in completion percentage of about, somewhere in the 62 to 65% range with Joe Milton. Justin, you referenced the offensive line. Jalen Mayfield, the best of the bunch coming back, had opted out. Now he's back in the fold, so that's obviously great news. Then I look across the offensive line, and I see a lot of guys with some experience, but not like full-time starting experience, but guys that have gotten spot starts and filled in, and they're pretty much across the line guys that were 4 stars in high school.
Yeah, they do have some experience. Andrew Vistardis is going to be the starting center. He is a senior, but hasn't really seen much game action. Andrew Stuber had started in the past, but lost his spot at tackle. He'll be back in now as well. So they've got Jalen Mayfield, who's going to be a first-round pick next year. Really fortunate for him to opt back in for the Wolverines to be the anchor of this line at left tackle. But there's 4 guys on the rest of the line that really don't have much experience, which could be a problem for Michigan. But with Ed Warner as the offensive line coach, he's had this same situation in the past. In 2018, he had the exact same thing. 4 offensive linemen that hadn't seen much playing time before, and he turned them all 5 of them into draft picks. So I believe that Ed Warner has got this team and this offensive line working well, and they've had, whether it's the Zoom calls, they haven't had a whole lot of time to work together, especially with COVID and limited practices. But I do believe that we will be a bit surprised at how well this offensive line fares in the 2020 season.
Talking Michigan football here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, share the videos out on social media, and subscribe right here. That way, when you hit the bell for the notifications, you know when we're going live, which is multiple times per week, call-in shows, live streams, and such. We got Justin Rowe on the line talking Michigan football. And you mentioned the running back position. And for me, early in the season in 2019, there was some attrition. Chris Evans couldn't play. A lot was thrown at Zach Charbonnet, especially against Army, where he had 33 carries. That for a program like Michigan, it was very thin at running back. But now, a year later, the depth seems to be really good because you got Chris Evans back. You've got True Wilson, who had a nice season. Hassan Haskins was a find, at least outside the Michigan program. And then I looked him up once I saw this kid running all over Illinois. I'm like, where'd he come from? And looked him up. He was a recruited running back, switched to linebacker, comes back to running back, averages over 5 yards per carry, and Charbonnet at 11 touchdowns. So now that you go from a bad situation at running back, these guys got a lot of reps, and you've got some depth there as well.
Yeah, the running back room, again, I do think that they're going to be a strong point for Michigan. So it'll be interesting to see how Josh Gaddis manages the proportion of throws, passes to runs for the Wolverines offense this year, because Michigan has always been a run-heavy program, obviously. So Josh Gaddis coming in as a type of, up-tempo, throwing the ball more, which is what 2020 college football is a little bit different for Michigan fans to see. But with the duo of Zach Charbonnet and Hassan Haskins last year, they were unbelievable, honestly. For Michigan, they were probably the best duo in the past 10 years for Michigan. So I think that they're only adding to that depth with Chris Evans. I think we could see Chris Evans possibly move out to the slot and catch some passes, or work out of the backfield and catch some passes out of there too. But it will be interesting to see how they utilize 3 different running backs and get everybody into a rhythm. I look at a lot of other programs that have, Najee Harris at Alabama, Travis Etienne at Clemson. They have one guy that gets majority of their carries, and he can always get into a rhythm and really feel, comfortable back there. It'll be interesting for me to see, can any of these 3 guys get into a rhythm, and is one of them going to break away after the first couple games and become that one guy?
Looking at the Michigan defense, they've consistently ranked in the top 5 in the country under Jim Harbaugh. The secondary gets ravaged by departures. Dax Hill is back. When I look at the defensive front, though, I'm seeing familiar names all the way across the board, and guys that have made plays. Kwity Paye with 19 combined tackles for loss and sacks. Aiden Hutchinson, 13 and a half combined tackles for loss and sacks. It starts with the defensive line, and you guys are well fortified there.
Yeah, honestly, I believe that Kwity Paye and Aiden Hutchinson will probably be the best combo of defensive ends in the entire country. They really are that good. Kwity Paye was named the biggest freak in all of college football just a couple weeks ago. He's a athletic phenomenon. Aiden Hutchinson is a legacy kid at Michigan, and he had an unbelievable year last year and plans to work himself. I believe both those guys could work themselves into first round draft picks this year. And then across the front, Carlo Kemp is a senior that's going to anchor the middle of that defensive line. And then there's a couple guys that haven't gotten a ton of play, but really I believe will end up doing well. And that's Chris Hinton and Mazi Smith. Both of those guys were 4- and 5-star guys, 300-pound guys that can move. They haven't panned out quite yet, but from what we're hearing, they really have started to put it together. Donovan Jeter's another one of those guys who has all the athletic ability, all the talent, but hasn't really put it together. So from the coaching staff and what they've said in the preseason press conferences, those guys have really stepped up to the plate here and will make a big contribution to this defense.
Huge game in the Big Ten Saturday night in Minneapolis with the Golden Gophers hosting Michigan. The MaizenBrew, of course, I believe the schedule shakes out with typically 3 Western Division foes. Of course, it's sized down this year with Minnesota and Wisconsin, so it's a tough draw for Michigan football. Let's look at the rest of the defense here. Linebackers, again, I referenced the secondary with Dax Hill back, but a little else back there. So how do you shake out at linebacker and in the back 7?
Yeah, the linebacking core will be very good. Cameron Grown had a breakout year last year, and I expect him to build on that. He has been really broken out as the captain of this defense and the leader. Josh Ross is another guy that's going to have a great year. He's been a star. I wouldn't say a star, but he's been really solid for Michigan's defense throughout his career, and I believe he'll continue that. The Viper position is one of those positions at Michigan. It's kind of a strong safety / linebacker position that Jabril Peppers was in the past. Khalil Hudson was in the past as well. And now we're going to see Mike Barrett, I believe, step into that role as a first-year player, and I believe he can make an impact. But it'll be interesting to see how he takes that on. The secondary is probably going to be one of the weakest position groups for Michigan football this year. Dax Hill, I believe, is one of the most talented in all of the country as far as secondary goes. He is about as fast as anybody. But the rest of the crew is not great. Brad Hawkins is going to be at the other safety position, who is a senior, solid, but not all the athletic ability in the world. We'll see how he replaces Josh Metellus and if that's an upgrade. And then on the corners, Ambry Thomas was a guy that was supposed to be a lockdown corner for Michigan. He's opts out, and so now they need to fill that role. And so it's sounding like Jamon Green is going to be that guy. There's a couple other guys, DJ Turner, that have been in the mix there too. So we'll see how that if they do it by committee or somebody establishes himself in that position. And then on the other side, Vincent Gray, he did have a little bit of a breakout season last year. He wasn't up to par as to what Lavert Hill was in the past, but he was pretty solid, and he'll be their better corner. So it will be very interesting to see how that secondary lines up against Rashad Bateman in week 1. Will Dax Hill kind of follow him wherever he goes? Well, because you know that PJ Fleck and Tanner Morgan are going to try and seek out one of those younger guys that doesn't have experience and create that opportunity for Rashad Bateman to go deep.
We talk Michigan, the Big Ten, and the nation every day here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please lock it in. When you subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications. You know when we're going live that way. Quinn Nordine, 10 of 13, field goal kicking. Jake Moody, 6 of 9 last year. When you run through all the various coverage units and special teams, both punt and kickoff, any big shakeups there?
Not really. Quinn Nordine, it sounds like, has won that job to start the season. They have definitely Quinn Nordine has a really, really big leg. So he's kicked some of the 50-plus yarders that Michigan has attempted, and Jake Moody was more consistent in the past. But it sounds like Quinn Nordine has put it all together and is now his consistency is much better. Will Hart is going to be one of the best punters in the nation. He has been on some watch awards lists as well. So he's a young guy that is going to be a very good punter. Other than that, there isn't much not many new names for Michigan in the special teams.
Yeah, Will Hart, 51 punts last year, 44.2 per punt. Justin Rowe talking Michigan football here at Mark Rogers TV. And Justin, we appreciate you stopping by and laying down the insight and the information regarding Michigan football.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.